So this is our fourth event in the Survivor Speaker Series and our first in Arizona, and I would like to thank each and every one of you for joining us today. Most of us here have been taught about the Holocaust our entire lives. In school, we learned about the overwhelming death toll of 11 million lives lost. Blockbuster Hollywood movies have been made, a plethora of books have been written, and documentaries have been filmed. So much so that I fear we have become desensitized, and one of the darkest moments in our history has become almost like a fairy tale. In 2015, I traveled to Poland, where I would visit Auschwitz for the first time. Auschwitz is the largest killing center created by the Nazi concentration camp system. Over 1.1 million lives would be lost, and 9 out of 10 lives lost at Auschwitz were Jewish. During my visit, I discovered a man who had been executed there, and I spent the next year of my life researching and writing about him. As I went through this process, I realized, shamefully, that I too had become desensitized. And it wasn't until I peeled back that massive number of lives lost and individualized it that the true weight of the tragedy was felt. And that is why we are here, to individualize it and make it a reality, to have history literally at our fingertips, and to see what happens when hatred and bigotry are normalized. Today, the lessons we should have learned from the Holocaust are being undermined by the same sinister forces that started the genocide in the first place. Racists, anti-Semites, bigots, and paranoid conspiracy theorists have begun a shocking new wave of hatred that is unlike anything seen outside of our history books. What's needed to fight this propaganda war is for the stories of Holocaust survivors to be told loud and clear, and for those of us who are truth seekers to embrace the horrors, face the lessons learned, and encourage others to do the same. So this afternoon, I ask you listen with an open mind and an open heart. And when we leave here, it is imperative that we not be silent bystanders in this waging war of hate. In the words of Holocaust survivor and Nobel Peace Prize recipient Elie Wiesel, I swore never to be silent whenever human beings endure suffering and humiliation. We must take sides. Neutrality helps the oppressor, never the victim. Silence encourages the tormentor, never the tormented. This afternoon, I am pleased to present an inspirational story of perseverance and survival during the Holocaust. Oskar Knoblauch was just a child when Poland was invaded by the Nazis in September of 1939. As Jewish Poles, he and his family would be forced from their home, along with thousands of others, and made to live behind a 9-foot brick wall that surrounded the Krakow ghetto. Along the top of that wall were panels purposely made in the shape of tombstones to signify those inside the ghetto would not make it out alive. But Oskar did survive. And today he is here to share his inspirational story of life in Nazi-occupied Poland, and I would like for you to welcome Oskar Knoblauch.
Thank you very much. I was born in Germany, raised in Germany, went to school in Germany for 3 glorious years. Our parents taught us to respect oneself, respect your family members, your friends, and yes, respect your enemies. Could you respect your enemies? Do you respect your friends? When I go, which is my duty too, which I do daily, in schools, when I asked teenagers whether they respect themselves, they have no answer for me. They don't say yes and they don't say no. How can that be? How can a person not respect yourselves? You were giving a precious gift called life. You have to respect that. This one particular student said, I don't care about anything. I don't care about respect. I don't care about love. So I asked him one thing. What was your most precious gift ever given to you? He pondered for a minute and he said, a teddy bear. I said, well, I'm sure you slept with a teddy bear? Yes. You hugged it, didn't you? Yes. Then you loved that teddy bear. You are a teddy bear yourself. If you have no one to hug or nobody is hugging you, hug yourself. You see, respect is something which we were taught. And because we respected that and we followed through with it, I have the privilege to be alive, to speak to you. Now that's sweet, isn't it? I will come back to the respect. Growing up in Germany was wonderful. My family. This picture was taken in Leipzig, Germany in 1932. I was 7 years old, smiling. We're always smiling because life was great. Life was fabulous. The outlook for the future was fantastic. We lived in apartment houses. I remember the third floor, our next door neighbors, the Dorfmans, they had a boy and a girl. The girl was my sister's age, and they were like sisters. Günther, he was a year older than I. Wonderful kid, wonderful friend. My brother, Günther, and I, we belonged to a sports club. Sports clubs were good in them days because you see young kids, when you're 7, rather than playing on the streets or in somebody's backyard, you belong to a sports club. You learn things, you do gymnastics. You're on a team, running team, climbing, you name it. And of course, sports. The game was soccer, so I was a soccer player. I emphasized about the good life because you see, it was great. Renate, his sister and my sister, they went together to school. They talked about boys. They learned how to cook and bake by both mothers, hers and my mom. They practiced the piano together. Life was great. But there was a change coming. A new government wants to come to power. The Nazi government. Well, how do you get to power? Through propaganda. Propaganda is something which this man introduced in Germany in a very effective way. Spreading lies. Spreading lies about the Jews. You see, we were Jewish. Our neighbors were not. But we got along. He says the Jews are lousy, they're not good, they're thieves, they cannot be trusted. And Jews are responsible for anything that ailed Germany at the time. And the Jews want to take over. Just recently, about a month and a half ago, in Charlottesville, a bunch of people were marching to the street in the evening with torches, reminiscent the same as I've witnessed in Leipzig, Germany. Those people in Charlottesville, they were shouting that Jews will not replace us. Well, pretty much the same story as it was in early Germany. The Jews are going to take over. You are an adult. Your math must be okay. Maybe even wonderful and great. If you have a nation of 50 million people and 550,000 Jews, you tell me if this is possible for them to take over the country. Or me here, in one of the high schools in Mesa, a week and a half ago, I had the privilege to speak to 800 plus students in a gym. something prompted me to ask a question. And it was, would every Jewish student please raise your hand? Out of the over 800 students, only 2 of them raised their hand, including me. There were 3 Jews in that building, and we're going to take over? There's got to be something wrong here. How can you possibly believe in those lies? But people do. They're gullible enough to believe in it. How did it affect us in Germany? Well, when Hitler became Chancellor of Germany in 1933, things started to change. My friend Günther didn't waste time, and he joined the Hitler Youth. That was the thing to do. His sister joined the Hitler Youth as well. Those were the uniforms in the beginning. Kind of outmoded, kind of, like I say to the seniors in high school, please do not rush to the screen. There's nothing to rush to. But of course the Germans realized that, the Nazis that is, and pretty soon they changed everything to make them look a little bit more attractive. Because this is what the Aryan nation would look like. So have a good look. Aryan nation. You see, they're going to have to build a country which will last 1,000 years. And people like this will live in that country. Any outsider must leave. On any given day, when Günther, my brother, and I went to the sports club, and the coaches knew us very well, that particular day, they stood in their stormtroopers' uniforms and said, you, dirty Jews, are not allowed to come in here anymore. In school, I had my desk up front. My teacher, I remember his name, wonderful man, Herr Erdmann. He greeted me in front of the class, and he told me, he says, you will not sit in front of, at your desk. You will be in the last row, and you will not participate in any school activities. So you come to school and you just sit there. The teacher doesn't ask you anything. If you know the answer, he won't ask you anything. You just sit there. Well, you go to school. I don't know why. They took me off the team. I couldn't play soccer anymore. My brother and my sister couldn't play instruments anymore. We were totally isolated. Because see, the Jew looks like this. The Jew will lose its rights. And by the way, even though that I was born there, and my brother too, citizenship was taken away from us. Because with the new government, we lost our rights. Well, Jews didn't look anything like this. Neither did they look anything like this. But people believed it. Why? Imagine for 550,000 Jews in a big country like Germany, there were cities, small ones and big ones, and communities where no Jews ever lived. People never met a Jew. They had no clue that we look just like any ordinary German. As you have seen the photograph before of my family, did we look so Jewish, so different? So they believed in this. Oh yeah, well the Jews must look like a mushroom? Really? Germany had intelligent people. Intelligent people. So why do people believe in this? Some of them were intelligent idiots. That's why. Oh, don't buy from Jewish stores. Boycott the stores. Well, the stores in Germany, certainly, the storekeepers were told if they were Germans, don't sell anything to the Jews. And so life in Germany became to a point where you couldn't do much. You couldn't have a job anymore. My dad couldn't earn a living anymore. And furthermore, they claimed that my dad was a Polish Jew. My dad was born in Poland, so was my mom. In a territory of Poland, which was under that time under the Hungarian Austrian Empire. It was ruled by them. And as they were living and they were teenagers and my dad became a young man, he was drafted to the army in World War I. Into the German army, by the way. The same army Adolf Hitler was in, wore the same uniform, and he fought for 4 years in the trenches for Germany. He came home with medals on his chest, the rank of lieutenant, a Jew. Hitler was in the same war. Yes, he got the Iron Cross, but his rank was corporal. Somebody did a better job, and it was the Jew. And we are being blamed for losing the war. So the government says, Polish Jews, leave, out. Sooner or later, we're going to throw you out, so you have a chance to leave now. Well, in mid-1936, with the help of some relatives in Poland, in the city of Krakow, we left Germany. Because you see, in school, I remember, when my parents complained how we're being treated, they simply said, if you don't like the way they're being treated, don't send them to school. So we stopped going to school. We sat at home in our apartment for 1.5 years, not even going out on the street because we didn't have any uniforms on. You're just being bullied, which we were bullied in school. The neighborhood school had about 900 kids. At recess, lunch, we're being put in the middle of the courtyard. 12 Jewish kids amongst 900 students. We're being bullied now, officially, by the way. You can do anything you want to do, call them anything you want to because they're Jews, and no one can interfere. So when you have a life like this, you just don't want to stay there any longer if you don't have to. So yes, we left and went to Poland. I was 11 years old. Coming to a new country, new language. I remember the teacher, whatever I could make out of it, he was introducing me, and the students, they just simply booed me because he told them I was from Germany. They didn't like Germans. Then they booed me again because I'm a Jew. And now I don't know the language. Now we have teams, soccer teams. We have captains. They have to choose who they want to have on their team. I'm being left out because I'm Jewish. It's almost the same story over again, except tolerated by the government. How do you prove yourself? I know how to play, but no, I'm not going to be on the team until finally the teacher decided he has to play. Pick him. That's all I need. See, my parents taught me, especially my dad, he taught us kids many things. Respect. Then he said something else. You have to learn to stand up for yourself. Because we won't be with you all our lives. So learn early in life to speak up and stand up for yourself. Do what is right. Fine. He also told us that if you have problems, don't fight it out with your fists. Because fists will get you into trouble. Your strength and your wisdom is not in your fists, it's up here in your brain. So use it. This is how you fight. Fight your enemies. Whatever comes across, whatever you come across, don't raise your fists. Doesn't work. Use your mind. You know, you learn. You're being drilled to do those things by your parents. And by the way, whatever you do in life, do it 100%. Or don't do it at all. But if you must do it right, and do it 100%. So with this attitude, when I was finally on the team, I showed them what I could do. That's all it took. That's all it took. There's one game. And then suddenly I was everybody's friend. Because evidently I played the game better than they did. That's one thing I give the Germans credit for. When they do things, they do it at 100%. All right? And that's one thing that stays with me. I'm on time, I do things right, or don't do it at all. So life suddenly became great. Made my friends, I proved a point, I'm here, and I'm here to stay, by the way. I'm not leaving. I'm in Poland. I'm going to make my life here in Poland. And it was great. My best friend is Zbigniew, great kid, Roman Catholic. Didn't have any problems with me being Jewish. I'm invited to go and help him decorate his Christmas tree. He comes over for Passover to my house. It was great. The only problem was, it was short-lived. Obviously, mid-1936, and here we are now, September 1939. World War II breaks out. Germany invades. It takes them only, what, 4 weeks, and they occupy Poland. So with the new occupation, we have a new governor. Somebody has to rule. The man on the right, Hans Frank, a personal friend of Adolf Hitler. He accepts the job. He says, "My Führer, thank you very much. I will go to Poland and exterminate the Jews." He said that in 1939. Exterminate the Jews. You call the exterminator to do what? Exterminate bugs. So do I. He's going to exterminate the Jews. All right, how's he going to do this? Well, he comes, he occupied Poland. I was 14 years old then. If you were 14 years old, girl or boy, you have to report to work. Why do you have to go to work? Simple reason. Food production and clothing was all under German rule. There were no Fry's supermarkets or Bashas, 7-Elevens. Anything you wanted to eat had to come and allocate it with a card, a Russian card. So if you went to work, whoever the people were, they gave you a stamp on a card, and that card you had to provide by the end of the month in order to get that Russian card. If you didn't have a Russian card, you don't eat. Unless you have a lot of money and buy your food on the black market. In other words, the black market, a loaf of bread, if it sells for, say, 50 cents, on the black market sells for $5. So you're going to go through your savings in a very fast way. So that was fine. You just walk and go to work. One thing to remember, Germans did not speak Polish. Poles did not speak German. How do you tell the people what the laws are? What do we want you to do? What are you allowed to do? What are you not allowed to do? They print thousands of signs in 2 languages. If you were Polish, you would read, if you kill one German soldier, we will kill 100 of you. If you injure one, we'll kill 50. They wanted to make sure that before you kill a German, think hard. Do you want to sacrifice 100 people? But there were other signs that would say to you, if anyone is caught helping a Jew, that person and their families will be executed. That if they catch you, you will be executed. Again, it is a warning. Do not help a Jew. So going to work and back was not a big deal until the governor said, well, we have to protect the Jews from the local population. So starting the first of the month, every Jew coming out on the street, no matter how old, in southwest Poland, they were calling this the general government. That area is a beautiful area. In fact, when the war started, Germany took that area without destroying anything in it. There hardly were any bombs thrown on the city of Krakow, just a few on the railroad station. Because they wanted to preserve it and eventually incorporate it in the Third Reich. So we, the Jews, had to wear the Star of David on our arm. If you walk out on the street, you better have it on. It's mandatory. If you're caught, depending who's going to arrest you, they can either send you to jail or shoot you. You're disobeying orders. So you wear it. Because I figured, well, what can possibly happen, right? Well, wrong. The very first day when I walked out of my apartment house, just down the street, I was surrounded by bullies. They were bigger than I, more than a whole slew of them, calling me names, pushing me, throwing garbage at me, spitting at me, and sending me on my way with a bloody nose. And nobody interfered. We had Polish police, the auxiliary police. They had to work for the Germans. They just stood by and they were laughing. The bullies, they were surrounded with other people. They were older. It could have been their mothers, their fathers, their uncles, their aunts. And they did nothing. They smiled. We call them bystanders. Bystanders are the most useless people ever born in this life. They should not exist because they never do anything. They're useless. In schools, I tell the children, I say, the students, I say, do not become a bystander. Become an upstander, a person who does something right, who does something which is helpful to somebody else, who prevents something. And by golly, there's so many things you can do. They ask me, well, what can we do? You can smile for a starter. Show somebody else that you're happy and you're making them a great day. Smile. Say hello, it's a great day, and it is a great day for heaven's sakes, you're alive. You've got a life. I mean, how bad can it possibly be? There's nobody standing over you with a gun trying to shoot you. We had to worry about it every minute of the day. I would come home, of course, with a bloody nose. But what about girls? They went to work. Guess what? They didn't give them bloody noses. You go figure it out. Because it's embarrassing for me to say what they did. And they did this in front of those bystanders. And you would have thought that somebody Just one person would have said, hey, what the heck are you doing? No. That's disappointing. So, in your lives, stand up, be heard, act. Don't let it just go by. I would cry myself to sleep, and I would ask my dad, he would keep telling me, don't raise your fists, work with your brain. How? And he would not tell me. I would ask him over and over again, say, you have to figure it out on your own. Well, one day, it's almost like turning on the light bulb. I walked out with a smile on my face, and I faced the bullies. And I smiled straight into his face, and I said, you don't know me, but I do. And I'm proud of who I am. I'm proud to be a Jew. That's something they didn't want to hear. Actually, they were very disappointed. Because what else can they say now? What else? We do all this to you and you don't care? You're proud? I said, yes. I'm proud of my heritage. I'm proud of everything that concerns me. And with that smile, I turned around and started walking away. And yes, they moved themselves away in the beginning, only to close it up again. But in time, it worked. Bullying is everywhere, in every school. And I keep telling the kids, don't speak to the bullies. Don't have an argument with them. Have no conversation with them because bullies don't understand a language. Just do what I did. Smile. Don't whine, don't beg. That's the worst thing you can do. Just tell them that you know yourself. You know exactly who you are. And that you're proud. You're proud of your skin color. You're proud of your heritage, of your culture. You're proud of when you wear your hair. And keep on smiling. You're proud of the way you look and the way you walk. And with that, just simply turn around and walk away. Don't even look back. And you win, and they lose. Because they have nothing else they can do to you or say to you. It worked for me, and it was dangerous. But I think smiles do open doors. Smiles tell you, or the other person, that you're actually a strong person. You're not weak. When you cry, when you weep, when you beg, that means you are weak. But when you smile, that makes you a strong person. Am I right?
Yes.
So can we have a smile here? No. That was a smile. That was not a smile. The smile is from ear to ear. Those two dimples have to be released. Let them fly. There you go. She's got a good smile. Did you ever notice that? No, you didn't. You didn't even look at her. You can do better than that. You too, lady. Come on, you're just sitting there. No, that's right. Keep your mouth okay, you can smile. That's fine. You got teeth. That's great. You keep doing that, your parents will have to chase the boys away. Yeah. They're going to be coming to them. Dad, you worried already? I am. Yes. So should they not smile? Work was terrible. Now the man said, I'm going to exterminate the Jews. Now, from this point on, it's going to be a little rough, especially for children, okay? But they're going to grow up and they hear no less and no more than they would hear on television. In order to exterminate the Jews, they need people. Those people are right here on the train. They're coming from Poland, from Germany to Poland. Translated, the sign says, we are traveling to Poland to shoot Jews. Simple as that. I took this picture for a reason, because I looked close and I've seen here is a mama with a little boy, because he's got suspenders on. evidently saying goodbye to her husband, maybe to her brother, whichever it is. And I figured, why don't I just show it? So they come by train, they come marching in, they're in the city of Krakow. They ID people. Why do they ID people from street to street? They want to find out if you are really allowed to live in that city. God forbid if you're not, you're being arrested. You committed a crime. You could have come from the outskirts of the city to visit with your grandparents. That's a no-no. You would be arrested. This is Nazi style. Now, it looks very easy. You stand against the wall. It's almost like they're holding up that poor wall because it might fall. But if you try it just for fun of it for about 15, 20 minutes, you will find that it's very strenuous on your arms. Especially if you stand like this for a couple hours. When the photographer, who happens to be German, moves away, those people will be shot right there where they stand. If this repeats itself from wall to wall, from city to city, same laws, anything to shoot the Jews. Don't have to have a good excuse. None. This is Montelupi. It's a jail. The jail was there before the war. It was a military jail for the Polish army. When the Germans took over, they used it for civilians. I spent a night and a day in that jail, and I understand that you were there.
Yes, sir.
Visiting.
Yes, sir.
Now imagine, this is kind of funny almost. It's kind of bittersweet. In 1943, I'm going ahead. In 1943, in order to stay alive, there was one Nazi, an S-man, Hans Fritzsche, a wonderful guy, who befriended my dad, and my dad befriended him from day one. And he tried to save us the only best way he could. My dad already had a job to work at the Gestapo, which was called the Pomorska. And Fritzsche wanted to make sure, because the ghetto is being liquidated, and if you do not have a job, especially me, being 17 years old, don't have a trade of any sort, I'm indispensable, meaning that I will go to a death camp. So Hans Fritzsche arranged for my brother and for me to report to Pomorska. Now, we were in the ghetto at that time. He said, when you come, make sure you bring your personal belongings with you, pants, underwear, shirts, you name it. Put it in a suitcase. And what you will do before you come to Pomorska, you will report to jail, to Montelupi. So we had to walk across town because we were not allowed to use any city transportation. And when we arrived at the gate, which was an iron rusty gate, and they had a big bell, which you had to pull on a rusty piece of iron, and we stood there. My brother is looking at me, and I'm looking at my brother. I said, who's going to ring the bell? So I said, you're the older and you're taller, you ring the bell. And he did, and we heard the footsteps, they had those iron hoofs on their heels, so you could hear them come, and he opens up that little thing, and the next thing, I see his eyeball, and he's screaming and he's laughing. He opens up that rusty gate door, and he calls his buddies, and he says, look at here. He says, you'll never believe what I see. We had the Star of David on our arms, suitcases in the hand. He says, they're actually coming here to move in. They think it's a hotel. And he took us to the commandant's office. And the commandant finally said, well, you're going to spend the night here, and then tomorrow morning you're going to go to work across the street at Elsluff's to start preparing the living quarters for all the Jews who will be working in the Gestapo. I thought it was funny that 2 Jews are reporting to jail, a very notorious jail, by the way. You don't come out alive from there. If you do, you will be on a truck, just like the people, eventually. But there's a reason why they're going to be on a truck and where they're going. Not to live, but to die. And you're coming there to report with a suitcase. Like he said, we have to go all over creation to find the Jews, to arrest them, and you come on your own. Well, he didn't know the real reason why we came. But needless to say, that was one occasion. The people, as you see them standing, they were all arrested for one thing or another. Jews. There are no rooms. Their cells are overloaded. So what happens? Trucks come. And they take you to the outskirts of the city limits called Ploshov. Now at that time, Ploshov didn't have a concentration camp yet. It's being built as we speak. And by the way, Poland did not have any concentration camps or death camps. They all have to be built. So you're waiting maybe a half a day. The trucks finally come. They put you on the truck, one after the other. They take you to the outskirts. There's an old stone quarry. Google it if you don't know what a stone quarry is. Too much time to explain. It's a gaping hole, huge. The trucks come, you're being told to get off the truck and get undressed completely. They don't care if there's boys, girls, men, and women. Trust me, you won't have time to get embarrassed. Because by the time you shed all your clothes, you're told in a rush, very fast, to go and line up at the top of the crest, and the machine guns are already waiting for you. As they mow the people down, that doesn't mean that your body will be shot and killed. Might be he's wounded. But the hole is so big, nobody cares. And there's another group waiting, and another group, and another truck, and it goes on from morning till night. The stone quarry became a park after a while. You know, when you go back there, now there's a park, people have picnics. They have no clue that there are skeletons, more than 100,000 of them lying dead. But you see, the idea is that we traveled the soldiers come to Poland to shoot the Jews. And they will shoot Jews. It doesn't matter which way. Remember the train? Remember the woman? That German woman with the child? Well, this soldier, all those soldiers, they have orders. The order is simple. Kill the child first. Let the mother witness the killing of the child, and then kill the mother. I wonder if she, that woman, ever seen a picture like this. Because this could have been her husband, who comes on furlough after 6 weeks, sleeps with his wife, plays with his grandkids, goes to restaurants, and then packs up his goods and comes back for some more shooting. Again, more of the same. Take you to another village, promise you all kinds of stuff. And here, the same way, dig a hole, shoot them. The next one I'm going to flip over very fast. And here we are. So they did this shooting for quite a while, almost 2 years. They were able to kill close to 2 million with bullets alone. Now the scenario changes. Now, the concentration camps are ready. Now, instead of arresting you and shooting you by a wall, we put you in those railroad cars. Maybe 150, maybe 200. It doesn't matter how many we put on. It's standing room only. Standing room only. You had to give you a little barrel of water in one corner and another barrel in the other corner for your waste, which is useless because it gets filled up. If the train would go at 40 miles an hour, it can be in any death camp or concentration camp within 3 to 4 hours. Poland is a small country. But they're not going to do this. They're going to take that train, 50 carloads, and park it on a railroad siding for 2 days and 2 nights, and you're in it standing. In the summer, you die of heat. The roof is made out of tar. It's boards and tar. It's just hot. Poland, the winters are sub-zero. What do you think happens to people when they're in the open in a train for 2 days, 2 nights? By the time they get to the camp and they open up the door, they fall out like popsicles. Did we know this? Yes. They had resistant groups in Poland, 2 of them. One were the Nationals, one were the Communists. Not only did they fight the Germans, but they even fought themselves against each other. But one thing came out of it, that they wanted to know, where do those trains go? What happens to the people? And they would come back and tell us all the goodies. So you knew what to expect. So sooner or later, it's going to be your turn. All this was going on. Here's the train, go into the camp. And if you get there, this is what you look like. Now, anybody who was able to work was already taken out of the line. Those people will not work. Same here. Those are children with moms, and they're not going to work. If you were still able to work, they would tell you to put in another, take you to another row, and you go. They will go and get in an undressing room, where you're being told that you're going to refresh yourself, you're going to get a shower. Your clothes will be disinfected. And yes, you will stay in one part of the camp, and you can raise your families. Instead of a shower room, which they had the shower heads but no water coming out, they lock you up in this room. Again, you're naked. This time, they separated the men from the women. When they release those pellets, when they hit the air, they become toxic. You can inhale. It takes 25 to 30 minutes to choke and cough. You cough your brains out. And then finally, this is the last shot. Your body's being cremated, and you take one handful of ashes. That was you. Who? No name, no gender. Who knows? Could be Jewish, could be Christian. End of the line. If you didn't end up there, you end up in the ghetto first. This is the gate of the Krakow ghetto, 9-foot walls. You know, you see those little round tops. Of course, the barbed wire and everything has disappeared. But in order to get out, you will go to work only on trucks, and you come back, or they march you out. And again, you're going to work, and you're doing all kinds of stuff. You're being put on a 480 calories a day diet, by the way. You are reporting now to your new lodgings. Now, we left a very comfortable apartment, but now we are finding ourselves here in this particular place, and well, it's not working. But if you see, there's a BR and 5. The man takes our family to this room and says, you will be living in this room now. This is your room. It's a 10 by 10 room. Even if there would be beds, there's not enough room for beds. There wasn't enough room for mattresses, which we didn't have. So the 3 kids of us, my brother and sister and I, we sleep on the floor now. boards, by the way, no carpet. This is your new home. Oh, there's a kitchen. What for? In order to run the kitchen, you need coal. We don't have the magic things with buttons on. You turn it, you've got electricity or gas. Same goes for your air conditioning or heat. Everything is coal, and we don't get coal. So this is obsolete. So you've got in each bedroom a different family living. So there's 3 bedrooms here, 3 bedrooms here. Well, oh, by the way, where's the bathroom? Oh, it's under the staircase. There's a toilet. No shower, no sink, no bathtub. How do you stay clean? You see what we have to be worried about? What we take for granted? Oh, you got to go to the bathroom, so you go to the bathroom. How many you got in your house? 2, 3, 4 bathrooms? Wait. And you know what? Those old buildings were not built to accommodate all those people's waste. So they would get stuck and overflow. There was no Roto-Rooter man to call. We had deal, we had problems. You live, but what kind of a life do you live? And you never know who's going to come during the night, because in the ghetto, they had continuous roundups. Usually they would take part of the street and all those people would disappear. The next morning they would be gone. And then finally they did it during the daytime. In the wintertime, if you saved yourself a piece of bread, it froze, and you gnaw on it and you try to eat it and you finally get it down a little bit and you want to wash it down with water because that's all you're going to have. But the water is frozen in the pipes because it's so cold. It's sub-zero weather. There isn't even a drink of water you can have. If you leave it in a glass overnight on the table, it would freeze anyways. My mom, she said, God was good tonight. Why? It snowed. Take a pot, gather some snow and eat it. We lived on snow in the wintertime. When we went out to work to shovel snow, we took our breaks with eating clean snow. That's your life. But you have to figure this out. You know, you have to have your mind, your brains working continuously. What do I do? This is the Sabbath together for 2 years, 1941, March. In March of 1943, they liquidated. I got myself a job in the ghetto, removing garbage, putting it on a wagon which came from outside the city. The man, we called him the horse handler because he had died to horses. His name was Jacek, nice Polish name. He was not Jewish. He was, like the rest of the Poles, a Roman Catholic. Young man. And one morning, I was weak, getting those garbage cans on that wagon, and can almost slipped down, and he came rushing forward to help me. And he realized that I was weak. So one morning, he hustled something from underneath of his wagon, gave it to me, was wrapped in brown paper. It was a loaf of bread. I didn't have any money to pay him. I said, thank you. And he used to bring me bread very often. Now the garbage, when it was taken, before it was taken out to the dump, had to be covered with a tarp. So he figured, why don't you go on top of the wagon, spread the tarp, lie down on it, and we'll take a ride to the dump together. So this way you get a little break. And we did this. One morning, we were done with the first load. I was on top, putting the tarp on, and part of the street was blocked off. And he said, this is not good. If we both go, they're going to pull you down, and you will disappear. So threw the reins to the horses to me, and he said, you go to the dump by yourself. Stay as long as you can. Not having a watch, I watched the sky. The sun was going down. I think it's time to go back. When I got back, he waited for me outside together and said, it's a good thing I went because the whole crew was taken away. Sent to Belzec, the death camp. If he wouldn't have acted, if he wouldn't have given me the bread, you see, Jacek became my first upstander. The person who did something to help me. Now, here's the question to you. Was he allowed to give me bread or bring me bread? Why not? Because he was actually risking his own life and his family's life if caught. He didn't bring it just once, but he brought it several times. And by sending me to the dump, he too took a risk. But he became the first upstander of more to come. When I say more to come, the next upstanders, and by the way, my parents, that's my dad, always smiling, always telling us, you know, you've got to think. You got to think, you got to do the right thing. The picture of my mom, well, I'll come back to that because I think I have one picture missing. But let's go back to who were my next upstanders. They were the very, very Nazis who were supposed to kill me. Imagine that. Because here I am. Remember the little incidents when we had to report to Montelupi with the 2 suitcases, my brother and I? Well, my brother already had a job. They gave him a job as a locksmith. But Oskar didn't have a job. So Hans Fritzsche, the good guy, brings me into a room at Pomorska. And I'm confronted now with Mr. Eckert, Oberscharführer. Give him a job. Eckert looked at me, he says, I don't need that skinny Jew. For 15 minutes they argued. For 15 minutes. Give him a job, because if you don't, he's going to be sent to a death camp. He said, so what? He's a Jew. He's going to die anyways. I don't have anything for him. I don't care. Someone entered the room. A young Polish man. Eckert told him something, which I understood, of course. He said something to the effect, which that Polish man did not understand. So Polish man, his name was Adam, he says, what the hell is he talking about? And I translated. I told him, he said that I will be working with you tomorrow morning, starting tomorrow morning, in the boiler room. And the German guy, Mr. Eckert, looks at me, throws his hands on his hip. If looks could kill, I would have been dead. And he said to me in a very nasty way, he said, you stood there for 15 minutes, you understood what we were saying, and you did not open your mouth. I was this close. And I smiled. This is me. I always smile. Whether I'm in trouble, I smile. When I want to say something, I smile. I said, hey, Eckert, our parents taught us never to speak unless you're spoken to. And you, sir, didn't speak to me. And that was the truth. And he smiled just like you do. Now, why did he smile? Why?
Respect.
Because what?
You respected him.
I respected him. You see, he realized something that moment. He must have said, whoa, hold on. He became my friend for 2 years. Yes. The guy who didn't want me, who didn't care if I die or live. And I showed respect. So he paid off. We come right back to the first slide, respect. Respect gave me life. And this man, later on, the next year, he saved me from the final solution again. Because we had to give up 25 of our Jewish people from the sub camp. We had 125. It was 25 too many. So 25 had to go. And my name was called. And he said to me that day, he said, no, he stays. In front of his peers, by the way. So those became my upstanders. And who was the final upstander? There were two more in between. The story goes on. There's a lot to be said, which happened with the upstanders. And they were all Germans. A lieutenant from the regular army. He gave us a key. He gave the key to my sister, which he delivered his sweater, which she knitted. It was all set up because the time was that the Soviets were coming close to the city, and he and his wife were leaving. And he said, here's the key. If you need to escape, use that apartment. And by golly, we used it. We used it just to stay overnight. In the morning, we were free. Yes, we broke out of our sub-camp, the Pomorska. Everything prearranged. With all this, you would think, well, everything went well. My dad was actually murdered 8 months before we were liberated, before we escaped, by one of those. Well, we had 250 of those people. Well, obviously, there's got to be a rotten apple somewhere. And yes, that man killed my dad. But then you have the others who said no. You know, it is amazing what some people will do and some people won't. Fritzsche, the one who became my father's friend, he was not a high-ranking SS man, but he was one. And I remember when I've seen him for the first time, I was so scared of him because he was 6 foot something, blonde and blue-eyed, and he walked like he was on a parade. I mean, he was so earnest, so strict, and so German that you were trembling. And yet, he was a man who had a heart. He tried very hard to get my mom to work with us at Pomorska, but he did not succeed. He was too late with the papers. And she ended up in the first concentration camp, which was built in Krakow, called Plaszow. And she and her sister and my cousin ended up in that Plaszow concentration camp. It was run by a very notorious commandant, very bad dude. And one Sunday morning, Fritzsche appears at Montelupich, not Montelupich, but Helsloos, and said to my dad, when he still was alive, my sister, my brother, and I, to get dressed. It was Sunday, it was winter, and he says, if you have any extra food, take it with you, you're going to need it. He didn't tell us where we're going. We find ourselves after a short ride on a streetcar transportation with him in front of Camp Plaszow, concentration camp. And we were startled. Why are we coming here? Is he giving up on us? The gate opens, and he said the following to the guys: those Jews are here for a visit. For 4 hours. I'll be back in 4 hours, and they better be in the same condition as they are now, because if not, you will go to the Russian front. No German wants to go to the Russian front. Life expectancy 25%? Come on. We were let in the camp, which had a sub-camp. My mom was sitting there in surprise to see us. Long tables in that barrack. The women were sitting at sewing machines, sewing uniforms. My aunt was sitting next to her, and so was my cousin. And so for 4 hours, they were exempt from work, and we had a conversation. It was bittersweet to leave and leave her behind. But here, something happened. This was an SS man who's supposed to kill. And he did not. And I am more than positive that he ever has shot anyone. That was not his style, because his work was something entirely different. Gathering information from the airwaves, not killing Jews. It was more political. To take a Jewish family on a visit to a concentration camp. I Googled my heart out. I couldn't find anything like this ever that had happened anywhere during the war. Just doesn't happen. See what an upstander can do? But going back to Yashik, when Yashik was bringing me bread, when he saved me from the transport, he didn't look into the future. He didn't know. He didn't have a crystal ball to see, oh, I see the future. Whatever I do today, it's going to materialize and Oscar's going to live. He took it by the day. But he succeeded. So what did he do? Well, he made me live so I can be introduced to others, upstanders, so that I can live and meet someone and get married, have children, have grandchildren. Am I right so far? He is responsible for that. Because if he wouldn't have saved me, I wouldn't be here today. My daughter wouldn't be sitting there in the back. We had a new addition. A great grandson was born. That's about a month old now. So Yashik, you are responsible for bringing into this world 40 people. This is what upstanders do. All right? Build a nation. You know, I talk my heart out in schools and I tell the kids, see what you can accomplish. You don't have to have a promise, oh, what do I get in return? No. Help out. Do the right thing. Don't accuse people of wrongdoing. Don't be, say, I cannot talk to you because you look different. Your skin looks different. I'm sorry, but I cannot associate with you. This is the worst thing people can do about it. My mom, she survived. Barely. She survived in the same way as I did by paying respect to the poor lady in an ammunition factory. Imagine there are 2,000 or 3,000 women who don't understand what they're supposed to do, and they're producing ammunition. And she said, I want to kill them all, have them killed. My mom steps up finally and says, look, ladies, this is what we have to do. And that poor lady was delighted. She started to pack 2 lunches, one for herself and one for my mom. My mom survived, barely. She didn't look like this when I picked her up in June of 1945. When I went in a room about half the size of this, many people were sitting at the table, and I looked at each person's face, and I could not see my mom. I almost walked out. I argued with the lady in charge. I said, my mom isn't here, all right? I haven't seen her for 1.5 years. She was beyond recognition. If she wouldn't have said, Oscar, I'm your mother, I would have walked out the door. This picture was taken about 2 years before she got ill in Canada. In the camp, which we came for a visit, the notorious commandant, he was such a good soul. My cousin told me that. He wanted to do something nice for Mother's Day. He had 200 mothers rounded up in Camp Plaszow and sent them on Mother's Day to Auschwitz to be gassed. Right. In schools, I lead the kids with this. And that's important. It was a wise man. He died too soon. He has accomplished a lot. And he did it with his, not this. That's the way to go. So I am at the end of my presentation.